Can I retire at 50 years old with $1.5 million in retirement savings and retirement investments? That's what we're going to talk about today on the Your Financial EKG YouTube channel. We're going to look at, can I retire at 50 years old? Or what is a retirement income strategy for a 50-year-old who is wanting to retire? And we're going to look at 3 specific concerns for this person who I spoke with. But before we get going through any of that, my name is Drew Blackston. I'm a certified retirement counselor, investment advisor representative, and I am your virtual financial advisor, helping you get to retirement, helping you get through retirement, and protecting your ability to stay in retirement. That's what we're going to talk about today. Getting to retirement and protecting your ability to stay in retirement. So let's look at this real quick. We got a can I retire at 50 years old. Now, we have a single male. He's 50. He's got $1.5 million split among 401k and non-qualified. We're going to get into that in just a second. Now, remember, with a 401k, if you retire at 50, you cannot use the rule of 55 because the rule of 55 says you have to retire in the year you turn 55 or leave your job or be fired in order to use your current 401k without incurring a 10% penalty. So this gentleman has some money that's non-qualified. Now, non-qualified means it's just in a regular brokerage account. So you can put money in, take money out, you pay taxes on capital gains and on interest. There's no penalty for pulling money out of that account early. So he's 50. We're gonna have to wait till 59 and a half before we start tapping the 401k. Now, his main concerns: when do I claim Social Security, right? Do I claim at 62? Do I claim at full retirement age? Or do I claim at 70? Now, if he claims at 62, which is about 12 years from 50, he's only going to get 70% of his overall benefit. If he waits to full retirement age, 67, which is 17 years from 50, he'll get 100% of his full retirement benefit. And if he waits to 70, 20 years from 50, he'll get 124% of his full benefit. So we need to know, when are we going to claim Social Security? How long are we going to wait? What's the bridge? What's our retirement income? Our retirement investments and assets going to do between 50 and Social Security? Because to be honest, we don't have any pensions, and all his retirement income is on him until we get to Social Security. So when do we claim? Also, how much income? Now, this gentleman has no debt, and he's asking the question, Drew, how much can I spend? He's single, he's very frugal, and I don't mean in the sense that he's pinching pennies. He just doesn't spend a lot on travel and things like that. So he's just asking, hey, if I retire at 50, how much can I spend based on $1.5 million in retirement assets? We're going to get into that. We're going to actually work kind of backwards, because most of the time when I do a financial EKG for somebody, they'll tell me, hey, we want to spend $50,000 in retirement. We want to spend $80,000 in retirement. We want to spend $90,000 in retirement. This gentleman's saying, I don't know how much to spend in retirement. How much should I spend? Okay. And taxes are big. Remember, he's single. So he is as a single filer, I think it's a little unfair to single filers the way our tax system is set up, because if you're married, you get a bigger standard deduction, your brackets are bigger, but if you're single, you get a lower standard deduction and you get lesser brackets, so you end up paying more in taxes. And it really hurts my clients who become widows or widowers. Now, in his case, he's just single, and so we need to look at taxes and say, okay, with this money that's in 401k, what are the tax implications going to be on that? Are there ways that we can do Roth conversions possibly to eliminate some of those taxes? And just what's the overall tax burden? It might be a case where it doesn't make sense to do Roth conversions because he's in such a low tax bracket already, okay? Now, I want to leave you with this before we get into the video. Proverbs 21:5. King Solomon says this, smartest man to ever live outside of Jesus. He says, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. So what we want to do today is put together a good plan, because this guy has worked hard and we want to continue his prosperity. Okay, hang on right there. We're going to go to the software. All right, so we're looking at a 50-year-old male. His name is Brian. He's got $1.5 million in retirement investments and retirement savings, and he's asking the question, Can I retire at 50 with $1.5 million? What about Social Security? What about taxes? And how much retirement income should I spend? So that's what we're going to look at today on the Your Financial EKG channel. So let's get into the software, okay? So if you can see here, this is Brian, okay? His birth date, February 12th, 1972. So he is 50 years old and he lives in Delaware, okay? So he is a Delawarean. I don't know if that's what you would say. Hey, listen, if you're from Delaware, put in the comments what they call you in that state. So Brian, what we're going to look at, because he's single, we're going to look at taking Social Security at 70. So his Social Security at 70 would be $3,062. Now, the reason I want to do that is because Brian is single. He has no children. And so for him, his retirement investments, his retirement assets are all for him. Now, he does have some nieces and nephews that if money's left when he goes, that's where it's going to go. But for him, without any pensions, without any real legacy issues, we want to try to create as much retirement income that we possibly can. So pushing his Social Security from 50 to 70, getting 124% of his full benefit is going to be the best thing for him, especially with longevity risk, because his parents actually lived into their 90s. So he's got some longevity risk, and we want to push this retirement income as long as possible. And that's something you need to be looking at too. What is the maximization for your Social Security? Because it's not just a simple answer. Take it 62, take it 70. We really got to factor in everything. Now listen, if you want me to put together an EKG for you, in the comment section below is a download called the Roadmap to Retirement. Click on that link. It talks about retirement income in that free booklet. But when you download it, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to meet with Drew? Click the button, yes, I'll contact you and we'll put together a Social Security strategy for you based on where you're at, all the factors around that, not some article or video that just tells you when to claim it. So Brian's going to take this $3,062 at 70. So let's look at his assets. Now remember, he's got $950,000 in 401k. We can't touch that because he retired at 50. The rule of 55 doesn't apply. We've got to wait till 59 and a half. If we don't wait till 59 and a half, we take money out of his 401k. He's going to pay a 10% penalty on top of taxes, okay? Now, he's got a TD Ameritrade trust account, which we manage for him at TD Ameritrade. It's non-qualified, meaning he can pull that money out anytime he wants, and he's got $550,000 in that. And we've got it in a portfolio now that he's retired that's for retirement income, okay? And in the bank, which we're not calculating into the assets on the board, he's got about $25,000 in savings and checking and various cash equivalents, all right? So if we look at this, his current portfolio is $1.5 million, right? 1.525 if you take in the bank. Right now, his current tax classification is 62% of his money is qualified, meaning as that money comes out, he's going to pay taxes on it. He's got $550,000 of non-qualified, so from a tax standpoint, he's going to pay capital gains and interest. And then he's got 1.64 of 1099 interest, which is the bank, which is not earning a whole lot right now. Now, the portfolio weighted average, now if you've watched this channel at all, you know that I want to keep rates very, very low. So we're going to run this at 6% rate of return for the investments in the market, not the money coming out for income. It's the investments that are invested are going to grow at 6% per year. Now remember, the stock market has averaged 8% since 1957. So we're going to go 2% behind that to 6% to be more conservative, okay? And we can adjust that at any time. If we want to go to 4%, 5%, if the client wants to go to 2%, I just want to run a rate of return that I feel for the client makes the most sense. We're not going to run it at 12% because, again, that makes no sense. All right? So let's look at expenses. So for him, he asked the question, how much income can I take from my retirement investments? So what we're going to do is some trial and error. And what I love about this program that we use is I can do trial and error. I can say, okay, you know, for him, he needs $3,000 a month just for living. Okay, so $3,000 is our baseline. So I've got $5,000 plugged in here right now. So I say, okay, if you take $2,000 more per month, you're at 3 and you go to 5, what's that going to do to your retirement investments? So if we go over here to retirement, we see if he takes $5,000 a month, he's out at 80. He runs out of retirement investments at 80. So we come back up here and you'll see why. His net monthly expenses are $5,133. We have inflation on that of 3.29%. So as he gets older, you see those values are growing. Even here, when Social Security kicks in at 70, because of inflation, his monthly expenses have continued to grow. Now, keep in mind this. He's 50 years old. He's probably not going to spend as much in his 70s as he will in his 50s and 60s. Not because he doesn't want to travel, not because he's going to be sick or anything like that. You know, my grandmother's 80. She just doesn't want to travel. She's got plenty of money, but she just doesn't want to hassle with it, right? So as you get older, you might spend less in retirement income, but you got to keep in mind, healthcare expenses are rising at 7% every year. There is long-term care, assisted living, home health care, all of that needs to be factored in. So you might not travel as much when you get into your 80s, but you might need money for healthcare, okay? So let's go back over to the expense chart real quick. And I'll say, okay, you're going to run out at this age if we spend $5,000. What if we drop it down to $4,000? Which means you have $3,000 for just your normal monthly expenses, and you'll have $1,000 extra to spend every month if you want that. We go over here to retirement, and boom, look at this. Projected rate of return is adequate. Amount needed to avoid shortfall today is none, which means at age 100, which I'm pushing for, he's got $823,000 left. So I'm able to tell him, listen, $5,000 gets you to 80, $4,000 gets you to 100. So we probably can fall somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 based on morbidity. Now remember, he has longevity in his family. So for him, an extra $12,000 a year is great for spending. I mean, how much do you need to travel? How much do you need for fun every year? $12,000 is pretty good, and that makes his money last forever. Now, if he gets to age 90, right, $2 million, and we need more, obviously he can take it out because his longevity risk is shortened at that point, right? So we've answered Social Security. We've answered the question, how much retirement income can he spend? The third question is taxes. So let's go answer taxes real quick, because we talked about Roth conversions. We've talked about, looking at ways to alleviate taxes. We're going to be pulling, obviously, his retirement funds earlier. So the required minimum distribution, which if you have an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, 457 plan, a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, a solo 401k, when you get to age 72, the government says, hey, you have to take out a required minimum distribution. And you've got to do that between 72 and when you pass away. And so for him, he's going to be taking retirement income earlier at 59 and a half is when we're going to start using that 401k for retirement income. And so in that scenario, his RMD is probably not going to come into factor as much because he's already going to be using his retirement income or his IRA 401k for retirement income. So we look at taxes and we say, okay, year 2022, look at this, projected federal tax rate's 8.5%. Because really all he's pulling off is $44,583 standard deduction. And now let's look another 10 years. 2032, 13.89. So it does click up a little bit at 60. Again, we talk about that. His inflation has grown, which means his retirement income has grown, which means we need to take more out. At 60, we're going to start tapping that 401k, which we're going to roll over to an IRA. And when you do that, your taxes are going to go up. Let's look at another 10 years, 2042, 15%. So this is a case where maybe we look at doing some Roth conversions, especially since he's not going to be touching his 401k between ages 50 and 60. And so that would probably lower his overall tax bracket. Taxes are really generous right now. Those could change. So we want to look at saying, okay, are there ways that we can do some Roth conversions for the future? We don't know. I think where he's at today, 8% is probably a pretty low tax bracket. 15% is still pretty low in retirement. Not overly concerned about where he's at for that. Okay, so we've answered the 3 questions: when to take Social Security, how much retirement income can I spend, and taxes. So I hope this video has helped you if you want to retire at 50 or retirement planning at 55 or retirement planning at 60. Listen, if you want to meet with me, remember in the comment section below is a link. You click on that, download that free booklet, and you will visit with me, and we will do exactly this. We'll do a financial EKG for you to see where you can get to retirement, through retirement, and make sure you stay in retirement. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button below, smash the like button if you enjoy this content, and leave your questions and comments below. I do read them all and respond accordingly. Have a great rest of your day. God bless. Bye-bye.